Week 1 of cycling's Tour of Spain, the Vuelta a España is in the books. Today's stage of this final Grand Tour of 2009 is the second time trial of the race, which began 7 days ago with a short race against the clock on a racetrack in the Netherlands. Fabian Cancellara proved fastest and was the first to earn the leader's golden jersey. He would keep that jersey for the next several days. It was a chaotic week of racing that followed, with furious sprints at the finish line on a daily basis, as the Vuelta began its journey through the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and finally onto Spanish soil. The weather was a big factor this first week as well. Slippery conditions partly to blame for multiple crashes and several close calls. The worst wreck of all came near the end of stage 4, a massive chain reaction pileup that affected 1/3 of the field. It knocked American and Astana rider Chris Horner out of the race with multiple injuries. After a rest day, the Tour entered Spain, and Stage 5 followed the pattern of the race. A long breakaway that was reeled in near the end, setting up a sprint to the finish, this time captured by Team Columbia High Road's Andre Greipel. A win that gave him the golden jersey of overall race leader. There was also another crash. This time, Stage 2 winner Gerald Ciolek went down in the final kilometer, though he was more angry than... Yesterday, the race entered the hills and low mountains of northeastern Spain. But the results were familiar. A sprint to the finish line and a victory captured by Borut Bozic of Team Vacan Soleil. Bozic became the second stage winner of the opening week, who had trouble celebrating the win. Andre Greipel closed the first week of racing still wearing the leader's jersey, although today's Stage 7 time trial should shake things up once again in the Vuelta a España. And we welcome you to Stage 7 of the 64th edition of the Vuelta a España from a rainy Valencia, Spain on the Mediterranean coast in the southeastern portion of the country. I'm Steve Schlanger, joined by Todd Gagulski. Well, we saw rain on the opening prologue a week ago. We're also seeing rain here at the second race against the clock in the time trial in Valencia, as we now take you through the course itself. Just about 30 kilometers of racing today along the coast, and it will start along the harbor and take in a portion of the Formula One racetrack here in Valencia. As a matter of fact, the finish line itself will be on the racetrack here in this very regal city. And with the weather, we will wait and see how things will unfold as the general classification will get more definition after this 7th day of racing. And we'll now take you through the general classification. Coming into stage number 7, after 6 days, Andre Greipel of Columbia HTC, a 6-second lead over Tom Bonin. Daniela Bonatti sitting in 3rd at 9 seconds back. Tyler Farah on equal time in 4th position, and several of the marquee GC favorites, Basso, Valverde, Evans, they are all right now in the top 10 and within a half minute of the lead. This was earlier today on the wet roads around Valencia, the world time trial champion from a year ago, wearing that rainbow jersey, Germany's Bert Grapsch, setting the best time. He was the 99th rider to take the start, and using his power on what is a very flat course, Todd Gagulski, he showed just what he could do.
Grapsch really expected to turn a very good time here today. Anybody in their discipline with the World Championship stripes usually performs.
This course very flat, some technical turns, but it does favor the power rider, the time trial specialist. So no surprise, Grapsch would do well. You also have to like a Fabian Cancellara later in the day, but boy, what a week it's been for Columbia HTC already. They've got 3 stage wins, 2 by Greipel, 1 by Greg Henderson, over 70 wins this season for this club.
And right there, Grapsch putting in the best time by far here early in the time trial, but there's a lot of big guns left to come. Most notably, Fabian Cancellara. He's the man everybody thinks can win it today.
Now picking up the action with the start of Lampre's Alessandro Ballan, the defending world road champion. We've seen him most of the week in the Stars and Stripes on the road stages, those point-to-point stages here at the Vuelta, but because this is a time trial, he's not allowed to wear that rainbow jersey. He's in the Lampre kit of the pink, the white, and blue, and we'll see what he can do, as all of the intervals at this portion of the race are 1 minute between the start of each rider. Once we get deeper and into the final 30 riders to take the start today, the intervals will go up to 2 minutes. As we're out on the road with Alexander Vinokurov of the Astana team, one of the favorites for the general classification, and in his return to racing following the doping suspension, he's already won 2 time trials. He won the Asian Time Trial Championships and the TT at the recent Tour de Lyon. So he has some races against the clock on his portfolio here coming into the Vuelta this year.
Certainly by this point of the race, 7 days in, Vinokurov probably starting to feel the challenges a little bit in his body, because he hasn't been racing for 2 seasons, and so every single day it's going to take a little bit of a toll. You can see here Alessandro Ballan, the road world champion, taking it very cautiously through the corners, because he has a lot more to lose here with a crash than he does have to gain. He's not really a time trial specialist after all.
Ballan, the 161st rider to start today. And overall, we will have 192 beginning this time trial. As we take you now up to the finish on the Formula One racetrack here in Valencia. Angel Gomez Marchante coming across with the 17th best time. Again, it is Bert Grapsch who still owns the best time of the day, and the Cervelo test team rider, the most recent to cross the line.
Tom Danielson really needs to prove himself here today. He's the hope for that Garmin Slipstream team, and it's really been one of the best 2 teams in the bike race so far over the first 6 days of racing, the other one being the other American team, Columbia HTC. And Danielson really he's come into form again. He's a man who's had a bit of a rocky career the last several years, and today's a big testing day for him.
And back up the road to Ballan, taking it very delicately around some of the turns. He is on the Formula One circuit right now. So the road is wide, it's flat, it's well paved, but in the weather, you just can't take any chances, can you?
You certainly can't, and as we were just mentioning American teams, Ballan is actually coming over to an American team next year, BMC, and he's also having a new teammate, George Hincapie, who just won the U.S. Pro Championship for the 3rd time, and Marcus Berghardt, a classics rider. So they're continuing to bolster that roster as well as the other 2 big American teams on the world scene.
And again, Alexander Vinokurov. We've seen Astana riding so prominently in the first 2 Grand Tours of the season, the Giro and of course the Tour de France, with Lance Armstrong riding both the Giro and the Tour for the first time in his career. Alberto Contador winning the Tour de France yet again this year in commanding fashion, deciding to skip the Vuelta even though he is the defending champion. So Astana has made a lot of noise in the first couple of Grand Tours, but not much from them here at this Vuelta. They've lost GC guy Chris Horner to the crash we saw earlier, so a much quieter, relaxed Vuelta for this Astana team, it seems.
And a very good time check for Vino at the first time check, very close to Miller.
But right now it's Bert Grapsch, the defending world time trial champion. Best time early here in Valencia.
The 2009 Vuelta a España is being brought to you by AT&T, your world delivered. And by MGD64, a tasty contradiction.
Out on the road with Alessandro Ballan, and a familiar sight as this Vuelta began a week ago today with a time trial, an opening prologue of 4.5 kilometers in rainy conditions that took in parts of a motocross circuit. And well, here we are 1 week later. Again, we have rain. We have riders on a motocross circuit. We're racing against the clock. And right now it is Bert Grapsch of Germany with the best time, but David Miller out on the road has put in a terrific time. This is the 2nd checkpoint out on the course at 19.8 kilometers. Miller the best time, 24:04. Xavier Tondo going through 12th best there. So it looks like David Miller of the Garmin Slipstream team having an excellent ride. We'll hopefully pick up his finish shortly. Meantime, Ballan just about 8 minutes into his effort. And again, very gingerly around some of these technical turns with standing water out on the road and the rain continuing to fall here. It's been a relatively flat first week of this 2009 Vuelta a España, but the real racing is about to begin. We have the time trial today, first of 5 summit finishes in the mountains tomorrow, and a very heavy concentration of mountain stages in the second week, 6 overall. As you see, Oscar Freire of the Rabobank team now coming home to the finish. Oscar Freire just missed out in a sprint on week number 1, but not even in the top 70 here. And we're 3 minutes back in the time trial effort. His team was really hoping that being on a Dutch squad, this Spaniard could win a stage when the Vuelta was back in the Netherlands, but it wasn't meant to be. Now, David Miller coming home, and, well, look at this. David Miller, it looks like, is going to have the new best time, and indeed by 4 seconds. The Scotsman takes the lead here at the time trial.
Miller's a man who definitely could hold on to a stage win here with a ride like that. He's very motivated to win one of these time trials, and he also wants to medal at the World Championships coming up in just a few weeks' time.
Great ride by the 32-year-old for the Garmin squad. And now Sammy Sanchez of the Euskaltel team, the Spaniard with bib number 1 out on the course right now. Of course, the Olympic gold medalist in the road race from last year in Beijing. Hasn't been the best week for him so far. He has lost some time, as going back to the opening prologue on day number 1, he conceded almost 20 seconds to Fabian Cancellara, was caught in a split in the peloton on stage 2, so he's a little further behind going into week 2 than he would like. We'll see if he can put in a good ride, although he is not necessarily a terrific time trial performer.
Really, for Sanchez today, Steve, what he's looking to do is show his form amongst the other general classification contenders. So he's looking for his time in relation to Basso, who is typically a better time trialist than him, but also Valverde, Evans, Geesink, Zubeldia, Danielson as well. So these are the guys that are in the mix potentially for the overall. And that's what he wants to see, is where does he stack up against them. If he has a good time trial, that means he's climbing very well.
For a lot of GC guys today, it'll be one of mitigation, trying to limit losses, knowing they won't have a terrific ride, but with so many opportunities to either gain or lose time in the mountains in these final couple of weeks, you just want to keep yourself in position, not blow up on a day like this.
It's really a shame that these guys are getting yet another day of rainy conditions and heavy winds here in the second time trial event of this year's Vuelta, but it's what these guys have to contend with. Whatever Mother Nature throws at them, and boy, Mother Nature's thrown a lot at them over the last 7 days of racing, with temperatures yesterday over 100 degrees, and now today the forecast for the entire day, strong winds, rainy conditions.
Sanchez on the podium here at the Vuelta in 2007, finishing 3rd. The only non-Basque rider on the Basque Euskaltel team. And it looks like he is coming up on the back of Ezequiel Mosquera, the Jacobeo Galicia rider who started a minute in front of him. Of course, he was caught up in a crash earlier in the week, has been dealing with a badly injured ankle, says he's feeling better, but he's getting passed by Sammy Sanchez right now, and this is always a situation where it's so motivating for Sanchez and so deflating for the guy who's getting past Mosquera.
Even after that crash with Mosquera, not even able to pedal, he is still fighting here, trying to do a good ride, but Sanchez blowing right by him. In that crash that took out Horner, Mosquera couldn't pedal, 2 teammates actually pushing him the last couple kilometers. Luckily, it was inside the final 3 kilometers of the bike race, and the way the race officials do that is everybody gets the time of the group they're in once they cross 3 kilometers to go, if there's a crash.
The American Tom Danielson, 10.5 minutes in, coming off a time trial win at the race in Burgos just a couple of weeks prior to the start of the Vuelta, finished 3rd overall at that race, so he's bringing some fine form to this Vuelta. He's won stages here before, feels comfortable racing the Spanish Grand Tour, and now we've documented what a tumultuous career it's been for Tom Danielson. If he's ever going to have a breakthrough and really get onto a podium and get that solid top 5, this could be the year. But you just never know with this guy. That's really the frustrating thing for, I think, a lot of American cycling fans.
We just saw a real nice view of his rear cog set on his bike, and he's down there rocking the 12 cog pretty well. He's got one cog left to go. He's moving fast. When he won the Vuelta a Burgos time trial, it put him into the overall race lead, but he eventually surrendered that, finishing third in the general classification. Alejandro Valverde wrestled that away from him. But Danielson has come into this race with high hopes, and he's one of these guys who, when he's riding well, he could certainly be a podium contender. We'll see a little bit of that today. We'll see a lot more of that tomorrow, whether or not he has it in the mountains.
Sammy Sanchez once again wearing bib number 1. None of the top 3 from last year's Vuelta are back. It was Contador, Leipheimer, and Sastre, the top 3 a year ago. Ironically enough, Ezequiel Mosquera, the man Sanchez just passed out there on the road, was 4th last year, but it is Sanchez who gets the designation to wear number 1 coming into this year's race.
Sanchez looking very fluid right now. I think he's going to be putting in a pretty solid ride.
Early on, it was Bert Grapsch setting the best time. David Miller of Garmin has now gone through 4 seconds faster, and it is Miller leading at the line right now in Valencia. We come back to Tom Danielson on the very wet roads around the 3rd largest city in Spain, Valencia, that has hosted the Vuelta a España on many occasions. And the most recent time trial here was way back in 1987, won by the Irishman Sean Kelly, a former overall winner of the Vuelta as well.
The man they used to call King Kelly because he was such a prolific winner. You can see Danielson here taking it pretty easy on this turnaround. Very difficult situation to navigate in a time trial when it's wet like this. But when he did win that time trial just a couple weeks ago in the Vuelta a Burgos, averaging over 32 miles an hour for 52 minutes. So that's how fast you got to go to be on the top step of the podium in a race this competitive.
Sammy Sanchez once again, and we have heard that he's actually put vinegar on his tires to get more traction on these wet roads today.
Kind of an old trick, and you don't see it done as often anymore, Steve, because a lot of these guys now are actually running tires with dual tread compounds where the center is a little bit harder and the sides are a little bit stickier, but you just never know.
And how about this? Just 1 second slower than David Miller at that second time check. Miller with the best time at each of the 2 time checks on the road and the leader at the line as well. Sanchez certainly not in the same class as far as time trialing skills as Miller, but putting in a terrific ride so far.
It's a great performance from a man who's not known for his time trialing. He is certainly on the top of his game right now.
2 time checks on the road at 11.3 and 19.8 kilometers before they hit the finish line, 30K in. And here is Tommy D, 14 seconds back at that first check.
If you look at that view we have, the reason why so many riders opt not to wear a face shield or sunglasses in the time trial, even though the shield is more aerodynamic, it's because it gets all that water on it and you can't see. So Danielson's one who's opted to go with nothing over the eyes and use the eyelids for what they're for, clearing your vision out.
Now mentioning Sanchez putting the vinegar on his tires for better traction, going back to the prologue, a lot of guys admitted they made some mistakes in the rainy, windy conditions with the selection of equipment and really regretted it because it cost them to lose time. How do you select the proper equipment for a day like today in a time trial?
Big idea here is you want to go with the rear disc wheels. Beldia is the man that's got the hopes for Astana, I think, more than Vino does, just because of the wild card issue of Vino being out of competition for 2 years. But equipment is, on a day like this, you want a stickier tire, you run a little bit less tire pressure, and you also probably have a slightly deep, less front wheel because it will buff it a little bit less, although it looks like Zubeldia here going with a tri-spoke or a 4-spoke front wheel, so that'll pick up just a little bit of wind.
Zubeldia has twice been 5th at the Tour de France, very good climber. And Astana came into this Vuelta with 3 GC hopefuls, Zubeldia, Horner, and Alexander Vinokurov. Horner has crashed out. That leaves them with just Zubeldia and Vinokurov. So for Vino and for Zubeldia, does it make it easier to have to deal with less team captains at this point? How does it affect the overall dynamic as they race for the GC?
No matter what, they're going to miss having Chris Horner around, even though they had 3 guys who were potentially all leaders, because Horner is such a consummate teammate that if he wasn't riding well or better than them, he would certainly throw into helping them out.
Sammy Sanchez, 27 minutes in now. Just 1 second back of David Miller's best time at that second time check.
Listen to his disc wheel. That familiar hum. It's a great sound. And when we first started getting disc wheels in competition, that was a motivating thing. You'd put that on your bike and you'd be like, wow, it just sounds fast. It's a great way to hear it right here in the time trial.
Sanchez, the 31-year-old who has built his entire season around the Vuelta and the upcoming World Championships, has won 5 stages at this race before. Several top 10s at the Vuelta on his resume, but he's riding for the victory here this year. Looking for his first ever Grand Tour win. And Tom Danielson, a guy who's also won stages at the Vuelta, but hoping to get on the podium at a Grand Tour for the first time. 18 minutes in now.
Look how far forward he is on the saddle, tipping it or on the rivet. As we said in the old days, the rivets are pretty much gone from the nose of the saddle now. And that means he is really all in. You can hear the horn of his team manager, Matty White, the man they call Whitey back there, just honking, yelling at him through his radio. Tommy, you're having a good ride. Stay on top of the gear. Keep the motivation high and don't make any mistakes.
Sammy Sanchez still cranking away. We've seen him pass his 1-minute man, Ezequiel Mosquera, and really determined to put in a solid ride here today as he looks ahead to the mountains to come in week number 2, beginning tomorrow with a summit finish at Aitana. The suffering on his face in the rain. And as I say, he passed his 1-minute man. As we get deeper into this field, the last 30 will have 2 minutes between the start of each rider before the final man down the start ramp, our overall race leader, Andre Greipel.
Well, look at this. Tondo approaching the finish line, but his left shorts leg is pulled up. He has crashed onto Lucia. Very active team, and they have high hopes for this man, but he has had a crash. Looking back at his time, shaking his head. There you can see the shorts.
A minute and a half off the pace. You've seen how careful all of these riders have been, as Louis Vestra is the next man to come in. Saw him in a break earlier in this race, and his team back on play has been the most dynamic of any squad throughout the first week. Inside of a minute back of David Miller. What a week it's been for Back on Soleil. They got the win yesterday with Borut Bozic. But the big GC rider still to come here at the TT. This is the start house alongside the harbor in Valencia, and this is the rider from Rabobank, the 23-year-old Robert Heesink, as he gets set to begin his 30-kilometer time trial effort in stage 7 of the Vuelta a España. Heesink, the Dutch rider who's shown so much promise at such a young age. He's a terrific climber, better than average time trialist, and really emerged onto the scene here at this Vuelta a year ago. It was his first ever Grand Tour, finished 7th. A lot of hope coming into this season, but he crashed out of the Tour de France in stage 5, broke his wrist before he really got a chance to show his skills in the mountains. So really hoping to come back with a strong performance at this Spanish Grand Tour. Aymar Zubeldia up the road, 8.5 minutes in for the Astana squad. We've seen his teammate and fellow GC leader for Astana, Alexander Vinokurov, a little further up the course in Valencia. He'll be finishing shortly. Some of the road seems to be drying out. We saw a lot of rain earlier. It seems to have stopped for the moment, but still wet enough to make a difference. These guys are going to have to be careful. Rain in the forecast the rest of the day, as well as tomorrow with the first big day in the mountains. Much cooler temperatures, rain throughout the day tomorrow. as the first 2 days in Spain have seen sunny skies and blistering temperatures right around 100 degrees. Quite a contrast today with the rain and temperatures in the low 70s.
And even at this point, if the rain stops falling, it takes quite a while with these cooler temperatures and the moisture in the air, for the roads to dry out. This is Vinokurov on the left side of your screen, and he has passed a rider who started in front of him. This is very much a testing stage for the Kazakh rider. He really wants to know, where does he stack up here in the bike race?
And today he stacks up 40 seconds behind the best time of David Miller, in 6th position for Vino, who is the only former winner of the Vuelta a España in this year's field. He, of course, took the title back in 2006.
Man, he passed there Eros Capecchi, the Italian for Fuji Servetto, that started a minute in front of him.
Sammy Sanchez coming up shortly. He's had a terrific ride as well. Second time check was 1 second off the best time of David Miller, who's our current leader. 36.5 minutes so far for Sanchez as he approaches the finish on the Formula One circuit in Valencia. Big sports city. They love their soccer, their Formula One racing, former host city of the America's Cup yacht races, and now Sanchez racing down this moto circuit.
Still looking very good. Obviously, if it were not wet, you'd see them carry a lot more speed through these corners. But in these type of situations with these concrete barriers in right as they exit the corner, you'd rather be a little bit careful than slide into that thing at 30 miles an hour. And that's what they do. They scrub off a lot of speed, then they have to get back up to speed and get back into that position. Sanchez looking very inspired here today. I think he's going to be a man strong for the overall classification, showing from this time trial ride.
His best days will be in the mountains, and now Sanchez getting set to post a very good time in this individual time trial. He's 15 seconds behind David Miller, 3rd place. Very good for this rider from Euskaltel.
And you can usually tell a guy who's not a time trial specialist, because at the end of the time trial, he tends to get out of the saddle more. It's showing that he hasn't left everything out on the road, and he's got a little bit left. The real specialist will typically be in the bars, in the aero position all the way. Mosquera here losing big time to Sanchez and the other GC men most likely today.
And Zeke gets a top 30, but he's 147 back.
4th in the overall last year for Mosquera, 5th the year before. And we'll see if he's able to repeat that here this time around. Now Haimar Zubeldia. I really pin my hopes for Astana in the overall on this man over Vinokurov. I think Vinokurov is going to continue to show more signs of fatigue, especially this next week with 6 days in the mountains.
This is Robert Haysink, and the thing with Vino, you've got a
very
good
slow.
blueprint.
Look at this.
Yeah, as you see how gingerly he's making his way around the turns. The thing with Vino is this is just a handful of races back for him now since he's been out with the suspension. As Gustavo Cesar Veloso comes through with a top 7 time, 37 seconds back. Terrific ride for him inside of 38 minutes.
Very good for the professional continental team, Jacobeo Galicia. There are only 4 teams in this race that are second-tier teams, and that's one of them.
And going back to my thought on Vino, he's only had a couple of races back. We've seen Lance Armstrong race a full season, 2 Grand Tours, and he says that he won't be at his best coming out of his retirement until next year. So that's an indication of just how much racing it takes to really get back to your peak. And for Kurov, judging by those standards, it's going to be a while.
It absolutely takes some time, Steve. These guys spend years working up to this fitness. Yes, when they come out of competition, they don't lose it immediately. There's something that everybody calls muscle memory, but whether that's really the case or it's a combination of mental, physical, plus all of your ability to read the race, it takes time to get it going again and get it ramped back up.
Haimar Zubeldia at the first of 2 intervals out on the course, 2 seconds behind the best time of David Miller. Now the last men out of the start house are the top men on the GC as you look at the current standings right now.
Great ride at the first time check for Vino, same time as David Miller. But I honestly would expect that he will not have the pacing right because he's a little bit out of the game. He'll probably start too hard, and he'll probably start to lose some time as the time trial wears on.
Now the two time checks coming in 11.3 and 19.8 kilometers.
Hey, Sink, the man on your screen, the young man, 23 years of age, and he has been the best young rider the last 3 years at the Tour of California, so a lot of our American audience will recognize him. And best young riders, depends on the race. Sometimes, like the World Championships, it could be U23, which means under 23. But in some of these races, it's 25 years of age that you have to be beyond under 26. Every race is a little different.
So Haysink, 7 minutes deep. Can he limit his losses today? Gives himself a chance in the mountains, which begin tomorrow. And boy, will it be a huge week in the mountains coming up. Week 2 here at the Vuelta. Ready for the start of the 24-year-old from Saxo Bank, Jakob Fuglsang, their GC leader here at this Vuelta a España. Well, Gogo, he's a guy who has all the skills. Good time trialer, he's a good climber, just very young. He's riding in his first Grand Tour, has the tutelage of guys like Andy Schleck, Frank Schleck, Fabian Cancellara on his team, but we'll have to wait and see what he can do as this Vuelta unfolds over its final couple of weeks.
Well, Fuglsang is a man we saw hit the back of the tanker truck in stage number 4, but look at this. Tom Danielson has passed the reigning world champion, Alessandro Ballan, his 2-minute man in the time trial, and right in the crosshairs are Vasquez in front of him. This looks like Quinziato. Indeed it is. Quinziato, the Italian. This is a man who's a good a solid time trialist, but he's probably not really going to ride this time trial hard because he's here to help Basso in the overall classification. He's been in the silver medal position in the Italian National Time Trial Championships about 5-6 years ago. But typically he focuses more on stage wins and helping his GC leaders out in these Grand Tours.
And a couple of other liquid gas guys still to start. Basso just a few riders away, and then third from the lap will be Daniele Bonatti. He's third on the GC as we are working our way towards the final 10. And we are into that section of riders where the intervals are all 2 minutes between the start of each guy. Final 10, by the way, will be David Garcia, followed by Cadel Evans, Alejandro Valverde, Basso, Bozic, Cancellara, Tyler Farah, Bonatti, Tom Bonin, and the final man, Andre Greipel.
If we look at those GC standings coming into the day, you really have to look for all the pressure falling on Swiss Olympic and 2-time world time trial champion Fabian Cancellara. He's only 18 seconds ahead of Greipel. And Greipel really not known for his time trialing prowess. Basso sits 9 seconds behind Cancellara, and in his wildest dreams, he wouldn't expect to outride Cancellara by 9 seconds in a time trial.
So we would expect to see the golden jersey of race leader change hands at the end of the day, but Greipel will be satisfied to have worn it for 2 days, has 2 stage wins, so it's been a very successful Vuelta for him. Said he just came into this race hoping to win 1 stage. He's doubled up on that in this first week of racing.
Well, you can see Danielson now has gone by Vasquez. Vasquez riding just a little bit close to him, and now he's coming to the other side of the course. Remember, Danielson did win a stage of the Vuelta a España back in 2006, but he's also a Tour of winner in the United States. He's won the Tour of Langkawi, and he's a man who really is a heavy hitter in this realm, but he just hasn't quite had the form he needs to step to the top step of the podium on one of the biggest of races.
Tricky final turn from the Formula One track here as Danielson makes his way towards the finish in Valencia.
Danielson also racing for a continued contract here on the Garmin Slipstream team because his contract runs through next year, and he wants to continue to extend that. Actually, I think it runs through this year.
And Danielson now with a good ride, good time. Just about 37.5 minutes in the saddle for Tom Danielson. David Miller right now best time 37:13, and Danielson inside the top 5, 18 seconds behind his teammate Miller.
Very nice work for the Colorado resident, 4th place, 18 seconds down. He's going to be climbing pretty well here come tomorrow and the rest of next week.
And his contract is up at the end of this season. He is riding for a new contract for Garmin, and they'll have to wait and see. He really needs a good ride at this Vuelta.
This is the main lead-out man for Andre Greipel. This is Marcel Seiberg, 6'5", and if you look at the starting ramp, you see the little brown or whatever charcoal colored lines. That's actually grip tape, like from a skateboard deck, that they've stuck on there because they lost Carlos Barredo in the prologue, who had a spectacular spin out right off the starting ramp in the rain.
I remember a week ago it was raining. He slipped going down the start ramp, fell off his bike. They then put a green piece of what looked like AstroTurf over it for riders who were going after him. The reason they didn't do it earlier, they said, is because there were sponsors' names on that ramp. They didn't want to cover it up, even though it was raining.
Yeah, well, apparently they knew who paid the bills, but Barredo certainly wasn't happy that it took him to fall down for them to cover up the sponsors.
Yeah, ironically enough, David Miller was the next man. He got the benefit of the carpet. And he's our current leader here in the second race against the clock at this Vuelta. By the way, we have 3 time trials overall. We had the prologue I mentioned, today's time trial, and then also another relatively short time trial on the penultimate day in Toledo, Spain, before the parade around Madrid. So one more time trial to go as you look at Manuel Quinziato of the Liquid Gas team. More rain falling now.
And really, the prologue, David Miller took the brunt of the worst of the weather. He literally couldn't even see at certain times. It was dumping so hard on him, but he has had 4 stage wins in the Vuelta in his career, and he certainly like to make this stage win number 5 here today.
Well, go with the first summit finish coming tomorrow. 8 classified climbs on the profile for stage number 8. How do you like having the time trial preceding a big day in the mountains, and how do the riders like it?
I think it's a great way to do it personally, because it starts to show the GC men who's got the stuff and who doesn't. Quinziato here losing big time into this first turnaround. Look at this, coming in 70th position, so shows right now he is saving everything to be a team worker. 47 seconds lost in just 11 kilometers. That's a lot of time.
Barely a top 80 for Manuel Quinziato, with a couple of his teammates still to come. Ivan Basso and Daniele Bonatti.
This is
Zubeldia coming to his finish, and another good ride. Actually, this is his second time check, 19.8 kilometers. So second interval for Heimar. So looking for a top 10, and he gets it at the second and final interval on the course here in Valencia at stage 7 of the Vuelta a España. The stoic face of the Silence Lotto Aussie Cadel Evans starting his time trial in Valencia. Now the 32-year-old really trying to salvage a disappointing season. Was only 30th at the Tour de France in July, a race where he's finished 2nd in prior years and has had some issues with management. And he's admitted that this has really been probably the most tumultuous time of his career, and is coming back with a focus on trying to get a good result at the Vuelta, but also using it as preparation for the upcoming World Championships at the end of the month in Switzerland.
Tough Tour de France for Evans. Man's been 2nd in 2008 and in 2007 in the Tour de France, and he was also 4th here in the Vuelta in 2007, so he really needs some redemption here. And this is Evans, once again, the Australian who's come through that Australian Institute of Sport program, which develops a lot of young riders in Australia, and they've become very successful in the way they develop riders. Evans here taking it pretty mellow through the corners once again, because the stakes are high on this rainy day.
Well, the problem for Evans here at this year's Vuelta is the fact that he's one of the best time trialists in the field, but with the 3 time trials overall, as we see the start of Alejandro Valverde here, the prologue today and then the time trial on the second to last day, they're all relatively short time trials by Grand Tour standards, 30 kilometers or under. A guy like Cadel Evans would certainly prefer a much longer time trial. That would get him more time over his rivals.
Especially a guy like this, Alejandro Valverde, who the longer the time trial gets, the worse off he is. He's pretty good in the short prologue distances, under 5 kilometers in length. In fact, he's very good. But once you get up to 30K, he starts to typically falter a little bit toward the end, and when you go up from there, he can really lose some time. So Evans will be a little disappointed about the makeup of this race, but every single year they change these Grand Tours. You can see here Valverde off of the ramp onto the bricks here. A kind of tricky start. It looks very slow with this long lens, but they get up to a little bit of speed as they're right by the harbor, and they make this fairly tricky and bumpy left turn, and they just go very slow through it. And then the course opens up and they can get into the open terrain here, as we see Fuglsang here, the Saxo Bank rider, who really is one of the potential GC men for that team.
But riding in his first ever Grand Tour at the age of 24, what can his realistic hopes be? He obviously has the skills to be on the podium and to win a Grand Tour, but in your first Grand Tour, can you legitimately shoot for a win?
No, not legitimately. You can shoot for a wild card, you know, an opportunist win, or just getting lucky, or having the unbelievable 3 weeks of your life. But you're really here for experience, and you're really here to show that you have a future, and certainly that's something he wants to do. Nice close up there. He does have the glasses on, so that obscures the view. If you look at the front of the bike there, under his elbows, the wing of the aero bars, very flat, and then further below the front of the bike, it's kind of like a fuselage nose cone on an airplane, and all the time trial bikes now starting to do that, certainly Specialized big in the leadership of those time trial bikes as well.
Fuglsang, the Dane, who was 6th in the Tour of Catalonia back in May, also 6th in the Dauphiné Libéré, won the Tour of Denmark, an ex-mountain biker, and will really excel once we get into the mountains, and that will happen beginning tomorrow.
This is an
as
Italian.
We pan up to the green kit of Ivan Basso for Liquigas.
Basso here, 5th in the Giro earlier this year, his first Grand Tour back in competition after 2 years suspension. And if we look at Lance Armstrong, 12th in the Giro, 3rd in the Tour, you have to wonder, will this be Basso's Vuelta? He has said this is his second major objective of the entire season. I have to think he's going to be higher than he was in the Tour of Italy.
As you look down on what is known as the City of Arts and Sciences complex in Valencia, housing an aquarium, which is the biggest in all of Europe, and many other attractions. Riders tracing a circuit around that today as we take it back out to Fuglsang at the first interval, 11.3.
Good time for him. Another good look at the front end of his bike. You can actually see there's a little bit of a line about 4 inches back, and that in front of that line is what turns with the bars, and behind it is what doesn't. Also, the rear wheel on the bike, if we get another look at that, you want to look at how the seat tube comes down and actually curves forward, and the rear wheel is stuffed right up under there and kind of creates another fairing. Every single aspect of the bike is there for massive time advantage. 35 seconds now for Fuglsang at the time check, so he has lost some time, unfortunately.
Again, that is the first of 2 intervals out on the road today. As the rain falling once again in Valencia. Stopped for a short while, but now picking up and falling rather swiftly, it appears. Temperature right around 70 degrees, about 30 degrees cooler than what we've experienced the last few days, as we take it back to Cadel Evans of Silence Lotto now.
I'm going to call that the Cadel Evans alien look, Steve. He looks just like the alien from the movie that slammed out of the person's chest. And that's because of that aerodynamic helmet that just goes right back onto his back, and he sticks his chin way out. Haysink, the big hope here, a very young man, hoping to do very well in the overall. And at the second time check, 35 seconds down in 17th place. Solid ride for a man who's not a time trial specialist.
David Miller with the best time at each of the 2 checkpoints on the road, and the best time at the finish line as well. For Cadel Evans, the most alarming thing for him has to be the fact that he really is fighting a psychological battle. He says even today he still doesn't know what happened to him at the Tour de France, and With such a turbulent time in his career, he's hoping to get it figured out at this final Grand Tour of the season and then take some form with him to the World Championships.
I would have to say, if I were his coach, I would start working more on his time trial. I think Silence Lotto is ignoring that, and it's a very critical part to winning these races.
So we're inside the top 10 to take the start here today at the time trial in Valencia. Stage 7 of the Vuelta on Universal Sports. Here is the two-time world time trial champion and winner of the prologue, Fabian Cancellara. Also has to be the favorite for today as well. So the 28-year-old Swiss rider now out on the course as we continue with our Stage 7 coverage, the individual time trial in Valencia here on Universal Sports. I'm Steve Schlanger alongside Todd Gogulski. Glad to have you with us on this second Saturday at the Vuelta. Second race against the clock, and out on the road, Cadel Evans moving rather close to the barrier there as he navigates these wet conditions. Slight riser now, 8.5 minutes into the ride for the 32-year-old Aussie for the Silence Lotto squad.
I'd like to take you back just for a moment to the start of Cancellara, and every single motion he makes in a time trial is premeditated. So he starts out slow on that section. He'll build into the time trial. He doesn't waste any energy with things he doesn't need to do.
Alejandro Valverde, just about 7 minutes in now. 29-year-old Spaniard, one of the pre-race favorites. He's been second, third, fourth, and fifth here. Never out of the top 5 at the Vuelta, but in the race he loves the most, still looking for his first win. And with the UCI still breathing down his back, facing a possible suspension that could keep him out of the World Championships, he is really pinning his entire season's hopes on this race, the final Grand Tour of the season.
Certainly could keep him out of a lot more than the World Championships. They might keep him out of the entire next season. So Valverde is a guy who always seems to start these time trials pretty hard, and I would expect him to do that again. This is not Vasily Kirienka. That's Cinziotto, the Italian.
That's the second checkpoint on the course at 19.8 kilometers.
And this is Valverde, and the rain falling very hard once again. Every one of these corners, a little bit of an obstacle for these guys under these conditions. Had it been dry, would have been quite a bit faster through these sections, but Valverde looking pretty smooth. Certainly a lot better through that left-hander than we saw Geesink a little bit ago for Rabobank, who was upright and going 10 miles an hour slower.
Now Valverde with a possible extension to his ban looming. He's already been banned from racing in Italy, and that's why he didn't race the Giro or the Tour de France this year, because the Tour passed onto Italian roads for a short time. So if he gets that ban extended worldwide, this may be his time. He's brought terrific form to the Vuelta. He may not get a chance to race the World Championships. Valverde has already won the Dauphiné, the Tour of Catalunya, Vuelta a Burgos. So he has terrific form, fitness, and preparation coming into his home Grand Tour. Can he put it all together? The big question, he always has that one bad day in a Grand Tour. Can he get past that? Can he mitigate his losses on days where he's not feeling all that great and then excel in the big mountains?
Zubeldia now coming into the finish, and he's first year on this team. He's done all his career riding for the Euskaltel Euskadi club, and now he's come over to the Astana club here, and a pretty solid ride for him right now. Look at this, he's still inside the top 10. He may hold that to the finish line. Oh, a solid ride, 46 seconds. He's going to be climbing well. He will be one of the men Valverde will have to go to battle with in the mountains.
Just inside of 38 minutes for Jaimar Zubeldia as we are back to Valverde now. As you hear the rain pounding off the pavement on this very flat circuit around Valencia, Spain. Very wide roads and just about flat all the way around the 30-kilometer circuit that takes in part of the Mediterranean coast here in southeastern Spain. Also the Formula One track where the race finishes today. But say goodbye to the flat roads after today. Tomorrow, 8 categorized climbs. first of 5 summit finishes, first of 6 mountain stages in the second week alone at this Vuelta, as the final 2 weeks extremely mountainous. And what we have coming up in the second week, Gogo, really the largest concentration of mountain stages and summit finishes that we have ever had at any Grand Tour in history. That's how big this coming week is going to be. It's
going to be worse than ugly in these mountains. Valverde now close to his time check, but Evans even closer, as we have Evans in our screen. And you can see David Miller with a 13:13. Evans not too far off at this point. Looks like he's only going to be less than 10 seconds down on the Scotsman here at time check number 1.
Exactly 10 seconds back at 11.3 kilometers for Cadel Evans, who was second at this year's Dauphiné Libéré. Doesn't have a very strong team around him. Going to make it very difficult to finish on the podium. He'll have to pretty much do it on his own. As you see the results right now at this first interval at 11.3 kilometers, Miller's best time overall.
I still have to say that it's really been disappointing to see Silent Slaughter not putting more time and energy into Evans in the wind tunnel and really working on the time trial, because it seems like he's slipped a little bit in the world competition of time trialing, and it used to be his strong suit, and now he tends to lose a little bit of time in these. Cancellara on the road, and this is a danger man for sure. Not only for the stage win, but very likely to put on, once again, the golden jersey of the overall leader as he comes in 18 seconds behind Andre Greipel.
Now, Greipel, not a time trial specialist, and a course like this is just smack dab in the middle of the wheelhouse for Fabian Cancellara. Flat, not all that technical. He can just demolish this if he is truly on form, and he's really been on form this season in the time trials. He, of course, won the prologue a week ago here at the Vuelta, has won 5 time trials already this season.
I have to say, Cancellara with the rooster tail coming off the rear wheel looks a little different to me from this aerial view than normal. He looks to be rocking his hips a little bit more than I'm used to seeing for him. I almost wonder if his saddle is in a slightly different position. We'll have to see if we can find out here after the day.
Valverde at the first interval, 20 seconds back.
Cancellara is very smart, and Greipel here on our start list, or on our stage.
He is the last man to start, leading the general classification, coming into this 7th stage of the Vuelta, wearing the golden jersey. Got a little smile on his face. He knows today will not be his day, but it's been a very satisfying first week for him. 2 stage wins, a couple of days in the golden jersey, so more than content with his first week's effort.
It's certainly his best career year, and last year his second best. Kind of amazing to hear the announcement that he's leaving Columbia HTC and going to Katusha next year. But this man looking for a big day today. Ivan Basso, one of the heavy favorites, and I have to say, I expect him to be for sure on the podium come the final of this race.
Now Basso, only a mediocre time trialist. After the Giro, he skipped the Tour de France to prepare specifically for the Vuelta, coming up on the first checkpoint out on the road. Basso went to the Dolomite Mountains, relaxed more, says he's more tranquil coming into this Vuelta as he was more stressed and felt more pressure at the Giro, but he's feeling a lot better about himself, just a bigger sense of calm as he comes into this final Grand Tour of the season. As you look down on Fabian Cancellara now.
I was just mentioning before we saw Andre Greipel on the starting ramp that Cancellara is such a pro here. Now we'll bring it back to Basso here. Time check number 1. He's already fallen out of the top 30, 11K in. And he really is here to minimize his losses in the time trial. He's not here to gain time. 29 seconds. He's concerned about the other men in the overall. He's concerned about Evans, although probably not so much. Mostly Valverde, Sanchez, maybe Tom Danielson.
We really haven't had a chance to get a true sorting out of the general classification. Today will give us more definition. It'll take shape a little further, but We're really going to have ample opportunities in the days to come when the mountains will give us much bigger separation between the top GC guys, as this is Alejandro Valverde once again. These time trials really aren't long enough at this year's Vuelta to give us those big margins between the marquee GC contenders.
Certainly for a grand tour with only about 62 kilometers in total of time trialing between the prologue today and the day before the final day, not very much of a chance for the TT guys to do what they need to do.
Well, you think back to the Giro that we had here on Universal Sports in May. They had one individual time trial that was twice as long as what we're seeing today.
That's right. One time trial in the Cinque Terre that was as long as all of the time trials here in this entire race. And Denis Menchov won that time trial, moved into the overall lead, and that really iced it for him.
It was also much more mountainous before he won the overall at the Giro on a rainy day in Rome. Fell inside the last kilometer on slick roads as well. A lot of drama in those final 1,000 meters. Ivan Basso in the rain and on the road here in Valencia. Fabian Cancellara, is he riding to his second stage win of this first week of the Vuelta? We will have to wait and see. Coming up on 12 minutes in, as Robert Hesink of Rabobank now coming to the finish on the Formula One track, just outside the top 10 right now.
Solid ride for him as we see the clock ticking. It looks like he'll be in the top 25. He'll be pleased with that.
A little over 38 minutes for Robert Hesink, and he will cross the line. 19th position, 101 behind David Miller here in the TT. Alejandro Valverde of the Case d'Epargne team. Coming up on 21 minutes into his effort today in the Valencia individual time trial. Valverde, a guy who's won 5 stages at the Vuelta before. Good one-day classics rider as well. Valverde with his best ever Vuelta finish, second here in 2006, right behind Alexander Vinokurov, who won that year. And now his teammate Vasily Kiriyenka is coming up to the finish.
Well, the Belarusian, who is a national time trial champion in his past, now with a very good time. Look at him, he's just in the 3rd spot right now. He'll probably slip out of that to David Miller, but a very good finish for the Belarusian here. And he holds
terrific
it
finish.
all the
Top
way to the
3,
line.
14 seconds back for Kiriyenka. That's the face of a guy who wanted a good time.
This is a man who's a stage winner last year at the Giro d'Italia and had 2 second places as well. When it comes to the time trial, that's really where he tends to shine.
Andre Greipel, the golden jersey, last man on the course. And Greipel, a very casual pace here, not really riding for much today. Greipel, the 27-year-old from the northern German town of Rostock, the same town, by the way, as former Vuelta winner Jan Ullrich, as this is Cadel Evans, the Aussie at his second interval, 19.8 kilometers. And he's lost some time outside the top 5 at this particular point on the course. And 20 seconds back of the best time at that point, David Miller.
I really think the writing is on the wall for Evans as well in the overall classification. Kind of seen it the way he's been riding so far, and he's losing a little more time in the time trial. He's probably out of the general classification race here in the Vuelta. And Greipel, even if he threw all caution to the wind and took every risk possible in this time trial, would not fare well, so there's no reason to risk it. And this may be Kinziato. It is, in fact, Kinziato coming to the line, and look at his place, 1:32, and the clock still ticks.
And he's dropped significant time here. Manuel Kinziato, 4 minutes, and position number 137 on the day.
It's really tough for a man to swallow their pride and lose 4 minutes for the time trial because you got to race for your teammates over the next days. Valverde certainly looking to ride very well. Tends to start out just a little bit fast and lose time as the time trial goes on.
At the 11.3 kilometer checkpoint, which is the
Look
first of the day. How about this? Bennati has finally knocked Miller off that top spot by 4 seconds.
Well, Bennati, no way will he keep that type of pace up in the time trial. He's a sprinter, and sprinters have a habit of going way too hard at the beginning. He certainly won't hold that tempo.
David Miller had enjoyed the best time at each of the 2 checkpoints at the finish, but he's been knocked off at the 11.3 marker by Daniele Bennati. A guy who's really here for the sprints. He's missed out in the first week. And the time check at 19.8 for Alejandro Valverde. David Miller is the name on the bottom of the screen. Best time at that second interval, and Valverde 23 seconds back, but Valverde really not measuring his time against that of Miller, more so against the other top GC contenders on the road.
It's a solid ride for Valverde, I have to say. I think Evans is going to be out of this one when they hit the big mountains, and Basso will probably lose some time to Valverde today as well.
Andre Greipel. Mentioned he's from the same town in Germany as Jan Ullrich, who also won the Vuelta a España, and there's also a connection that these two have, as Greipel is the first German since Ullrich to wear the golden jersey of race leader at the Vuelta.
Well, Ullrich taking that all the way to the finish line and winning the overall in '99. Greipel certainly has no illusions of winning the overall, but it's been a terrific season for him. 17 wins this year for him. That's a good year for a professional bike racer.
Greipel enjoying the leader's jersey at a Grand Tour for the first time ever in his career here at the Vuelta. Could very well be his last day for this Spanish Tour here on a wet afternoon in Valencia.
If you look at this Colombia HTC team, it's the only team so far that has won stages of all the Grand Tours. They've won stages of the Giro in May, the Tour in July, and now they've won 3 more stages here so far of the Vuelta in September. So they have been very prolific winners, over 70 wins for the men's team. They also have a professional women's team, which is also extremely successful.
That is Daniele Bennati, who we just saw have the best time at that 11.3 kilometer checkpoint on the course, 13:09. First glimpse of him on the road, the Liquigas rider, final Liquigas man, and third to last to start the time trial today, sitting in 3rd position on the general classification. As his teammate Ivan Basso a little bit up the road.
I'm sure
Liquigas has a team here for the sprints as well as the GC.
And I'm sure Bennati is surprised even himself, turning the best time check in the first 11.3 kilometers. But he already looks like he's slowing down considerably.
Ivan Basso, his teammate, at the second interval, 19.8.
And indeed, he is surrendering valuable time to Valverde, 49 seconds down. So it's about 20 seconds or so behind Valverde at that time check.
Now this is Alejandro Valverde. Well, the thing that's really going in Basso's favor at this year's Vuelta is the fact that he has a very strong team to support him for the general classification. Unlike, let's say, a Cadel Evans of Silence Lotto or a Robert Haysink of Rabobank, Basso has a terrific team. Plus, Basso has no ambitions at the World Championships. A lot of the other marquee names in the general classification, they're either thinking form and fitness, training, something like that with an eye towards the Worlds. Basso says, hey, I've got a great team. I don't care about the Worlds. I'm just here to win the Vuelta, and that makes a big difference.
It's a huge difference. He's got all his concentration focused in one place. Here's our time check for Greipel, 43 seconds down for the overall race leader, and he's not really going to care. He knows the writing was on the wall before he started. We saw him make a little wave after he smiled coming off the ramp, saying it's been fun, and it's going to be gone after today.
And Daniele Bennati, the sprinter for Liquigas. The only men behind him, Tom Bonin and Andre Greipel. Fabian Cancellara started 4 minutes in front of him. And Bennati, it looks like, just tapping out an easy tempo right now.
We're getting a little information from Cancellara, though we haven't seen him through that first time check. It does appear that he was slightly slower than Bennati, so we'll just see. Here we go, 17 seconds slower. But the thing about Cancellara is he is a slow starter in these time trials. He knows exactly how to pace himself. If you go out of the gate and you open the throttle wide open, you have to live with all that damage done to your body for the next 40 minutes or 30 minutes of that race. And so Cancellara works into it, and he doesn't go too deep too early.
Now David Herrero coming up to the finish.
Great ride for the Jacobeo Galicia rider.
And Herrero going to get himself a top 3. Whoa. Only 8 seconds back of David Miller, so we're seeing some surprises at the finish here.
Impressive ride for this man. An inspired ride, I'd have to say.
Now this is Fabian Cancellara at the second interval, and boy, look at this time.
And that's Bozic right in the crosshairs.
Boy, he has really made up a lot of time between the two intervals. Now, best time by almost 20 seconds for Fabian Cancellara. So he started out slow in those first 11K, but in the next 9K, he has just set the road on fire.
Well, the Swiss time machine really getting it rolling there, and he goes right on by Bozic. Bozic has to be very happy with his stage win, but Cancellara here is looking for another time trial win, and he has won so many of these things around the world in his career.
Albinati maybe enjoyed his one moment in the spotlight today by having the best time at that first interval, but he is slowing down. Cancellara, meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, he is starting to pick up the pace, showing his tremendous time trial form.
Yeah, Bonatti will have to lose at least 2 minutes, maybe more in this time trial to Cancellara.
Now Fabian Cancellara, of the men left on the road, certainly the best time trialist here in Valencia. Is he on his way to his second stage win here at this Vuelta a España? We will find out as we continue from Valencia on Universal Sports. The Swiss rider from Saxo Bank, Fabian Cancellara, has gone through the second interval on the course, almost 20 seconds faster than the best time prior to his arrival. And again, showing why he is the best time trialist in the world right now. The standings at that 19.8 kilometer checkpoint, and look at the margins.
Great ride for Sanchez in third. He's one of the GC men, and he is picking time up on all of his rivals for the overall. One of the things about Cancellara in the time trial discipline is that he is still using a very deep aero front wheel, even though it's windy out here, because he's a big guy, he's heavy, and he doesn't get buffeted around as much. And he's also extremely aerodynamic in his position for a big guy. He's low in the front, he's very flexible. That all adds to his winning performances.
Daniele Bonatti, one of 2 Liquigas riders on the road right now, along with his teammate Ivan Basso. Now for Cancellara, such a huge advantage at that second interval, and we've seen this before with him, not only winning time trials, but really demolishing the field. It's hard to compare sometimes because riders are on the course one at a time. They don't go side by side, so it's difficult to get an accurate perspective as you see the last man on the course, Andre Greipel. But what is it about Cancellara that can make him so dominating in this time trial discipline?
Well, one thing is you don't see him get out of the saddle like we're seeing right here with Andre Greipel. That's the sign of somebody who's not a specialist, because he's uncomfortable in that position and he has to get out of the saddle because his back hurts, his glutes hurt, his hamstrings hurt, his shoulders hurt. So the thing about Cancellara is he's powerful, he's aerodynamic, and he's got just a great sense of focus and pacing, and he doesn't start out too hot, and he also has the bike handling skills when he's in that position. So he can do it all, and he has that laser precision focus to put it together time after time after time.
Seen some good views from overhead of this regal city of Valencia, former industrial city, now really known for its culture and tourism. And the riders starting along the harbor today, finishing the Formula One track. And now following Daniele Bonatti to that second checkpoint at 19.8 kilometers. Already surrendered some time. Remember, he had the best time at that first interval. But as opposed to Cancellara, between the two intervals, he's dropped a lot of time, while Cancellara was picking up so many seconds.
Significant time. I think Cancellara was 17 seconds behind him. Now he's 35 seconds in front of him. So that shows just the massive time differential, but you can see it as we look at Cancellara here, just rolling along the big gear here, turning it over at a high rate of speed. He's narrow, he's low, he does everything just right.
Now Cancellara took the first golden jersey, the Oro of this year's Vuelta a España 1 week ago today with his win in the opening prologue. He wore the golden jersey for 4 consecutive days after that before surrendering it to Andre Greipel, but if he keeps up this pace, he'll be riding his way into the golden jersey for the second time at this Spanish Grand Tour.
This man has a closet full of leaders' jerseys from various races, many of which he took the lead in the prologue. And Cadel Evans here trying to salvage what time he has been losing throughout the day here. You can see on the bottom of your screen, he's currently sitting 6th place, but there are going to be a lot more slip away here in the next couple hundred meters.
Cadel Evans suffering with some morale issues right now, trying to hold on to a top 10 here on the day in the 30-kilometer individual time trial, and 9th best at half a minute back of David Miller.
Actually, that last leg of the time trial, a pretty good performance from Evans, where the middle leg of the course, I think he maybe just lost his focus and lost some very valuable time.
Well, another guy losing large chunks of time, Andre Greipel. In the golden jersey for probably the last day, 22 minutes in, and looking like a guy who just can't wait to get to the finish line. This is not his specialty, dealing with the inclement weather, wants to get the day over with. And we now get our first glimpse of Tom Bonin at the second checkpoint on the course.
Well, remember, this guy comes into the day 2nd place in the overall classification, only 6 seconds down. But 35 seconds back at the second time check for the Belgian.
And Bonatti sort of like Greipel right now, just making his way towards the finish. Meantime, Fabian Cancellara just licking his chops on this flat course, coming towards the end of his ride.
Taking it nice and careful through the turn because he knows that he's already got the best times at the second time check. So when your radio is telling you that, your director is telling you that, you're like, okay, I do not have to risk life and limb here in this turn. If I'm 3 seconds behind or 2 seconds behind, I might put a little bit more risk on the line. Definitely not if I'm that far ahead.
Cancellara is so good at gauging his effort, how much he needs to really push it, how much he can afford to back off the gas. He does it so well. This is Alejandro Valverde now coming to the finish.
And you can see once again, not a time trial specialist. He's got a lot of energy left over, enough to get out of the saddle and literally sprint to the line. It's because he doesn't really have a proper sense of pacing.
One of the favorites at this year's Vuelta a España, the Spaniard Alejandro Valverde, just outside the top 10, 33 seconds back of David Miller right now.
Certainly he has attacked the course, a good ride for the Spaniard, and he's a man to be reckoned with over the next week.
Coming down to our final few riders to finish. Is Cancellara on his way to another win? We will find out when we continue from Valencia here on Universal Sports. Now, boys and girls, if you want to learn how to ride a time trial bike, watch and take in Fabian Cancellara. It's been another commanding performance in this 30K individual time trial effort for the big Swiss rider from Saxo Bank. And now coming to his final few minutes. A 19-second advantage at the final interval. What will the margin be at the finish line? Meantime, Andre Greipel back down the road. He has conceded significant time outside the top 60 as he comes to the final checkpoint on the course.
You can see the difference in their speed, just in their body language, but you look at the clock, 1 minute, 39 seconds with 10K to go for Greipel.
Gonna be suffering. Meantime, this man, Fabian Cancellara, if he continues at this pace and he doesn't show any signs of slowing down, he's going to be riding into his 6th time trial win of this season alone. Ivan Basso now.
Basso here in the race of truth, hoping to minimize his losses to not only Valverde, but The fast man of the GC men, Sammy Sanchez, had a very good ride.
The 31-year-old Basso riding the Vuelta for the first time in his career, and 33rd position at the moment, 1:11 behind. Well, not his best effort, not a very good time trial rider, but probably hope to concede less time than what he has. Can he make it up in the mountains? That'll be the question for Basso going forward. Meantime, question for Fabian Cancellara. The way he's rolling, how much will he win this time trial by? Now the 28-year-old won the opening prologue of the Tour de France this year, wore the first yellow jersey. He also wore the first golden jersey at this year's Vuelta. Taking the long way around, it appeared, on the Formula One circuit there.
Certainly did. And way back to February, he won the prologue at the Tour of California, but actually had, I believe it was strep throat or something kind of nasty, and ended up quitting the next day.
He has dealt with some health issues, but coming back extremely strong here, and he's so motivated because the World Championships this year are in his home country in Mendrisio, Switzerland, in just a few weeks. And of course, he has those two World Time Trial champion.
Showing why he's the favorite to win it again here. He didn't win the Time Trial World Championship last year, but he didn't race it last year. He won the Olympics, and he said, you know what, guys, have at it. I'm going to sit out the Worlds. Bert Grapsch won it, and he's put in a good ride here today.
Well, check this out. That looks like Daniela Bonatti, who's got to pull over and get some service from the team car, a new wheel.
Well, he really doesn't care. As we saw, he had lost so much time after setting the best time split in the first 11 kilometers. He gets a quick wheel change here. He's back on the road. But that second time check, he had lost significant time. He doesn't care. He just wants to ride this one in. This man, however, cares a whole lot. And you can see him all the way to the line in the aero position. He doesn't waste any energy.
Fabian Cancellara, look at the time. It's been another clinic for the rider from Saxo Bank, as Fabian Cancellara is going to assume the new best time by over half a minute. And that's going to be enough to allow him to win the stage.
No doubt about it. That'll put him into the golden jersey again. And after he finishes, not even a smile, because he has put so much energy out to do another terrific time trial performance.
Hard to believe he trailed at the first interval, then led by 19 seconds at the second interval, wins by over 30 seconds here at the finish. He passed this man, Borut Bozic, yesterday's stage winner. The first ever Slovenian to win a stage at the Vuelta for the Vakon Soleil team. As Vakon Soleil has been very active in this first week of the Vuelta. He's 2:46 behind Cancellara's time. And now Bonatti, after the wheel change, making his way towards the finish here. Now the remaining guys on the road, really just sprinters, not time trial specialists, nor any threat to Cancellara or the overall general classification here at the Vuelta. Just riders hoping to finish and fight another day. But there is what will soon be the winner of today's stage, Fabian Cancellara.
What's pretty amazing about this guy is that not only can he time trial, but he actually can haul his giant bones and frame over some pretty big mountains, winning the Tour of Switzerland earlier this year. That's an amazing feat for a guy that's that built in cycling.
And we'll see how many mountains he chooses to ride over here in the Vuelta, because there are going to be a lot of them in a row coming up beginning tomorrow with the first summit finish. Daniela Bonatti, one of 4 riders left on course at this point. Our last man on the course is right there in the golden jersey of the overall race leader, Andre Greipel. But no doubt he'll be surrendering that today. Remember, he started the stage a mere 18 seconds ahead of Fabian Cancellara in the GC standings, and now he's going to lose more than that. Much more. Now rain still falling, maybe a little more lightly than we saw a while ago, but the roads have been wet throughout for all of the riders here in Valencia today. Second race against the clock, and second time they've had to deal with rain. And the first big day in the mountains coming up tomorrow. Summit finish at Aitana. 6 mountain stages altogether in the second week. We've got 5 summit finishes coming up. Will be the toughest Grand Tour of this 2009 cycling season. So buckle up, because these final couple of weeks are going to be fun and interesting.
Let's look at the time gap to Miller in second and Grobsch in third. 32 seconds to Miller, 36 to Grobsch. Tough for Miller to lose yet another one. He's had so many second places, but it's a Scotsman who never gives up, and he'll try once again come one day to go in this race in the final time trial. A little bit shorter, but close to 30 kilometers for that one as well.
Andre Greipel will be satisfied with his 2-stage wins and a couple of days in the golden jersey in this first week of the Vuelta. A guy who was inspired to get into cycling after he saw the movie American Flyers. He told his mother that he loved the movie, wanted a bike. She got him one. He joined the local club, and the rest is history. Now that's Daniela Bonatti coming up on the back of Tyler Farah near the finish line now.
Farah starting a minute, actually 2 minutes in front of him, and Bonatti with a flat tire and wheel change on the front. This is really an indication that Farah may be getting ready to not finish his final Grand Tour of the year. He pulled out of the Giro, he finished the Tour de France, and he's got to be tired. He said he wanted a stage win here this week, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Running out of chances. First week was the best opportunity. And now Bonatti crossing the line, 15th best, 1:12 behind Cancellara.
Very good ride for Bonatti. I would have expected him to have lost more time in the latter portions of the time trial.
So that leaves 2 riders on the course, Tom Boonen and Andre Greipel. Boonen will cross next. Well, an adventurous ride for Daniela Bonatti. Mechanical issue. Started strong, faded, and now this is back with Greipel. Greipel, inspired by American Flyers. I know, Gogo, you were inspired by the movie American Anthem with Mitch Gaylord and Janet Jones, that gymnastics flick back in the 80s.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Big time.
Well, Greipel is just surviving to the finish here. He's got a couple of minutes to go.
Yeah, the thing about Andre is there's no reason to punish yourself right now. This is a man who probably will try and finish the entire 21 days of racing in this Vuelta, and he wants to try and get another stage win. And quite honestly, a lot of the sprinters will end up not contesting the whole race. So Greipel is a man that if he sticks with it, he may have a shot at another win. Tom Boonen here.
Yeah, Tom Boonen now.
Look at his right shoulder ripped up there. So he had a bit of an adventure out here on the course, but still giving it a good ride. He comes into the day 6 seconds out of it. But there's no way you can match Cancellara here in the time trial.
Trying to hold on to top 10 for Tom Boonen. Cancellara time of 36:41, and Boonen just outside the top 10, 103 back. Wearing the green jersey today. Greipel leads the points competition here, but he's obviously wearing the golden jersey, so Boonen sitting second. He wears the green jersey today.
I have a strong suspicion that this man is going to still try and win another stage. He's got good form riding this well in a time trial.
So just Greipel to go now. But Fabian Cancellara going to wind up the winner of the time trial on stage 7. We will bring you back to the finish of Greipel as we continue here on Universal Sports.
The 2009 Vuelta a España has been brought to you by AT&T, your world delivered. And by MGD64, a tasty contradiction.
Final couple of minutes for the final man on the course today, Andre Greipel, wearing that golden jersey as he heads toward the finish of this 30-kilometer individual time trial in Valencia on stage number 7. Our second time trial, following the prologue of this year's Vuelta, and after several flat stages in week number 1, we're about to get into the mountains, and there will be several of them, especially in week number 2, as today's time trial really just a piece of the puzzle, Gogo. It's a thread in the tapestry of the entire race, one small part of the story, and now the mountains are really what's going to frame the arc of this race going forward, because that's the really big signature feature of this year's Vuelta, all of the climbing.
And from this time trial here today, Steve, we see 4 guys very close in that race for the overall. They're over a minute down, but Cadel Evans, Alejandro Valverde, Tom Danielson, and Sammy Sanchez all within just a few seconds of each other. And just a little bit further off the mark, Jaimar Zubeldia, Alexander Vinokourov, Linus Gerdeman, Ivan Basso, and Robert Gesink. Those are, I would say, at this point, possibly second tier. But I think that Basso, by virtue of a poor performance in the time trial, brings him out of that top group. The mountains will bring him back up into those favorites.
Valencia in southeastern Spain, but this race going even further south, down into the Sierra Nevadas, before it loops back up to the north and heads towards Madrid, the finishing city and Spanish capital, on September the 20th. So still 2 full weeks of racing left to go at this 3rd and final Grand Tour of the season. And just a few hundred meters left to go now for Andre Greipel on the Formula One circuit right now as he makes his way towards the finish.
And he knows exactly where he stands in the overall here. If he still has the radio in his ear, which he may have pulled out, it looks like it's still in there. Sometimes they just get sick of hearing the director telling them how bad they're doing, and they pop that thing out. But he knows that today is just a day really for a procession for him to show off that golden jersey of the overall race leader one more time. And what a terrific season it's been for this German strongman. His teammates call him Andre the Giant. You can see he's losing a bit of time here, but a big race first week for him.
And with that, the results are official, and Fabian Cancellara is the winner of the individual time trial in Valencia. He takes a 2nd stage win of this year's Vuelta as well.
Cancellara, always the consummate professional in the time trial. He does it here once again today.
So Cancellara with another decisive performance in a time trial. His 6th time trial win of this season has vaulted him back into the golden jersey of overall race leader, on top of Tom Bonin by 51 seconds. David Herrero back in 3rd position, 59 seconds back. And now let's hear from the dual winner, Fabian Cancellara, from this year's Vuelta.
This time trial has been more difficult than the first one?
Yes, for sure. I think the most difficult today was weather condition. Was very slippery, but on the end, the big motivation today was when we look where we are, Valencia, on the harbor, America's Cup, Alinghi, Suiza, the feeling to find the good road, and going fast like Formula One on the Formula One track here in Valencia. I think a good test for me. Did great race. I'm very happy for this.
Your strategy has been to be calm at the beginning and push hard at the end?
Yes, I think I tried to go easy in the corners on the beginning because there was a lot of turns, and I was going very slow for the reason that the road was slippery. But I think there was many days not raining in Valencia, and that's the reason also maybe that was so slippery. But I think on the big road, when we came out here, was a lot of wind, and then the way back with the headwind, I really tried to push there to get maybe there to do the difference, and then great race.
The last one. Are you going to be here till the end?
I don't know. I see I will be day for day better, and I'm happy that I won today. I think for me it was an important day to see where I am, which level I have, how much I could push, and I think I did a good test now again in Mayadoro, and tomorrow I think a hard stage, and could be maybe that would be the last day for me in the golden jersey, but on the end I won 2 stages at a few days in this beautiful jersey, and we see day to day.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, Cancellara is indeed right. Tomorrow will be hard. Stage 8, first summit finish of this year's Vuelta. 8 classified climbs and a lot of cat 2s and 3s just to soften up the legs before they get to the final climb of the day. It's over 200 kilometers altogether to the summit finish at Aitana. And this is what that final climb looks like, Gogo.
Yeah, only about 13 miles in length. A quick day in the saddle for these boys. Actually, anything but. Tough day, and we should see, I would say, Valverde vying for the big win tomorrow.
6 mountain stages altogether in the second week of the Vuelta. Beginning tomorrow, it is gonna get good here in the final Grand Tour of the season. As they leave the rainy weather in Valencia, the forecast for more showers and cooler temperatures tomorrow in the mountains gonna make it very difficult as we take you to the podium. And for the 5th time at this year's Vuelta, the Mayo Oro, the golden jersey, onto the shoulders of Fabian Cancellara.
It's pretty comical that earlier this year he said, "I am not a machine," after he was injured and sick, but he looks anything but not like a machine now.
Fabian Cancellara, the overall race leader, going into stage number 8 tomorrow. And now for Todd Gogolski and all of us at Universal Sports, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us for stage 7. We will see you tomorrow in the mountains at the Vuelta a España.